The basic image of the journalist from the silent days of the movies to the media-drenched days of the early 21st century is that of a flawed hero fighting everyone and anything to get the facts out to the public. The reporter or editor could get away with anything as long as the end result was in the public interest. The journalist could lie, cheat, bribe, betray, or violate any ethical code as long as the journalist exposed corruption, solved a murder, caught a thief, or saved an innocent. Most films about journalism end with the reporter or editor winning the battle, if not the war. At the same time, the most indelible image may be that of the journalist as scoundrel, as evil, as the worst of villains, because these journalists use the precious commodity of public confidence in the press for their own selfish ends. If the journalist uses the power of the media for his or her own personal, political, or financial gain, if the end result is not in the public interest, then no matter what the journalist does, no matter how much he or she struggles with his or her conscience or tries to do the right thing, evil has won out. It all boils down to what journalists are supposed to do: inform and help the public, and be a court of the last resort for those who have no access to the power structure or the mass media. Okay.
And I guess the media image in general, which I think that's a very accurate summary of, by the way. I mean, it just doesn't seem to me, it seems, I don't know, I guess it doesn't seem to me to be as egregiously off base as you might be implying. I don't know if I really believe that, but let's at least start with that.
Let's hear from Joey, and then I want to ask Mark a question.
Let's see, where is this? Hi, am I on? Okay. You know, I think unfortunately the vocabulary has shifted. People talk about the lamestream media and that kind of idea. I think unfortunately there is a real belief now that there is no journalism without some particular slant and that kind of idea. Though it's called fair and balanced, but it isn't really, those kinds of ideas. So there really is this concern now when people are reading something that, you know, who wrote it, where are they from, what is, you know, where, you know, what does it actually represent? I think too much of the time, what happens is journalism tries to sort of bend over backwards to give people equal time. And it isn't necessarily about equal time. If you look at, you know, the relative portrayal, for example, of people with disabilities, there are about 11 million people with disabilities in the United States. There are 300,000 people, I think 300 million people in the United States. That means about 3% of the time you should be actually having a person of any particular career be a person with a disability. And instead there's this shorthand that goes on in the story that the journalist is trying to tell, that that person with a disability, you only choose them if it's about the disability. So there's this stereotyping. You want to very quickly get across that this person speaks for, I don't know, the Latino culture or whatever. You need someone who has a Spanish-sounding last name. It's just, it's really frustrating that people actually can't get past kind of that shorthand that people are using now to get a point across. And unfortunately, I think that stereotyping is present in the movies as well.
Mark, let me follow up on something you said that also kind of comes off of Jolie's comment. You mentioned that a lot of the, I guess, stereotype, or what we take as stereotype portrayals here, kind of square with your experience. I mean,
I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit. Yeah, I actually like that.
Okay, well, I want to ask you to elaborate a little bit. Is this the experience you encountered in doing reporting of your own, or the reporting on the film The Hurt Locker and your experience in Hollywood with the entertainment media?
When I was coming up in the, I guess this was the early 90s, there were still guys around who had come up in the 70s who, you know, would tell me stories of all the kinds of crazy stuff they would do to get the story home, and a lot of them were really respected, you know, Pulitzer Prize winning type of journalists. So to me, part of the fun of the job was being able to go that extra mile and, you know, really push the envelope of what it would take to to get the story. And by definition, if you're breaking news, you're basically revealing something that somebody doesn't want you to reveal. So there's always an inherent kind of power play in place between the reporter and the information out there that they're trying to get. And so that might lead to some slippery behavior on both sides. And so I don't know. I guess it seems to me that the point you were making about sort of objectivity is sort of the larger question today in terms of how people evaluate the press, and the sort of widespread dissatisfaction with the media in the country. It stems more from the sense that all of the press is politicized to one degree or another, and that nobody's really objective. It seems like it's more about that than the ethics or the ethical conduct one way or another of how reporters get stories.
And it's the time isn't split fairly. I mean, it's all about time or number of words or whatever. If you're doing a 3-minute piece and 20,000 people demonstrated on one side, and there's 200 people that demonstrated on the other side, generally the story actually gives equal time to both. Instead, if you looked at the math, really the 200 people should get about a second and a half. Others disagree. That should be all there is, and the entire rest of the story should be about the 20,000 people who had a different point of view.
And local TV programming and network TV programming began to emulate a very primitive kind of proto-version of the phenomenon that Mark is talking about with websites now, where you can literally measure which pages and stories get the hits, and the editorial decisions start being made purely on what's going to draw readers. Not some editor's judgment about what might appeal to people, but hard metrics about where people are going. And anybody who's spent any time on the web knows exactly what kind of coverage that's going to drive, and it's not going to be the most high-minded, civic exposés. I mean, the most important stories, there's probably an inverse relationship between the most important, pertinent stories and the ones that are most widely read. And the innovations seem to be pushing the news decisions all in the wrong direction.
I want to know your thoughts on this WikiLeaks.
What about it?
I just want to know what you think about it.
Just in general, or I don't know. I guess I'm still trying to make up my mind what I think about it.
Well, that's how I feel. That's why I wanted some other input. How about you?
I'm all for it. I'm all for anybody getting all the information. I don't know why information has to be kept from the public. Why, this government is going to ruin our relationships with everybody. We don't have relationships with everybody. Everybody during the Bush administration hated us anyhow, and I'm not sure how it works now. I think they like Obama a lot more, but why not let the public know everything?
Definitely there's some folks we'd like to thank tonight. First of all, from the Greater Los Angeles chapter of SPJ, several members of the chapter board worked hard to put this program on. Most notably Joel Bellman, of course. My good friend Lauren Bartlett. Outside and bopping in and out, but David Nadal and Alice Walton are here, and a few other members of the chapter board are here. I see Natalie Windsor's here, and a number of folks who have, Dan Evans, Dan, there you are, had roles in publicizing this event. They all deserve your thanks as well. And finally, not least at all, is the Rand Corporation, who not only gave us this lovely facility and free parking and lovely food, but a wonderful welcome and did yeoman service, yanking chairs out of other rooms and getting them here. So Warren Roback and everybody, we're very good. We can't thank you enough for being here. It's always good for journalists to discuss things with members of the public and other journalists. And if you're interested in more about what SPJ does, go to spj.org or the local chapter, spjla.org.